You're good to go. You're good to go, Dr. Aiken.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Oblak. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Dr. Aiken and Dr. Oblak, and we are here today to present the district transition to 4-day instruction. We will have about a 15 to 20-minute presentation for you today, and then we'll allow for a Q&A session following the presentation. So as I mentioned, the Q&A session will follow the presentation. And just one last thing, if you could please keep your microphones muted during the presentation, we'd greatly appreciate that. So as we transition to 4-day instruction, there's 3 specific goals that we've outlined. The first being returning to 4-day in-person instruction for our youngest K-6 and most vulnerable learners in our school district. The second is to balance meeting the needs of our students and parents and protecting the health and safety of our students, our staff, and the entire school community. The third piece is really one that's been prevalent since the onset of this pandemic, and that's to keep the safety and security on the forefront of every decision that we make.
So in order to help inform our planning and the recommendations that we made to the Board of School Directors, we issued a transition to 4-day in-person instruction survey to our families in February of 2021. And we just want to share with you briefly the responses from the 2,692 responses that we received. Individuals were asked to rate on a scale of 1 being not comfortable to 5 being very comfortable. And the first question that we asked was, how comfortable are you with returning your child to 4-day-a-week in-person instruction while the county at the time was designated as being in the substantial level of community transmission? Of those respondents, roughly 22% or 591 indicated that they were not comfortable. And then looking at the other end, roughly 47% or 1,256 respondents said that they were very comfortable. The second question that we asked using the same scale was, how comfortable are you with the district deviating from the CDC recommendation of 6 feet of social distancing in order to facilitate 4-day-a-week in-person instruction? About 26% or 702 respondents indicated they were not comfortable, and roughly 39% or 1,046 respondents indicated that they were very comfortable. Looking at district transportation and the impact that that may have with the district returning to 4-day-a-week instruction and parents not having the availability to drive their children, we wanted to gauge if families would be willing to continue to transport their children, or if they were not comfortable with their children being on the school bus, understanding that 6 feet of social distancing was not possible. Roughly 54 or 55% said that their children would require transportation by the district, and then roughly about 45% said that they would not. And then our final question was, if the district transitions to 4-day-a-week instruction, what option would they opt for their child? Roughly 75% said that they would opt for their child to attend 4 days per week, even if the 6 feet of social distancing could not be achieved. And roughly 25% indicated that they would either remain in or transition to the 100% virtual learning model. So we thank the families who submitted responses to that survey, and we were able to use that data to help inform our decisions and recommendations for this transition to 4-day-a-week instruction.
Thank you, Dr. Oblak. One of the questions that we've had most frequently in the past few weeks is, why are we transitioning to 4-day instruction at this time? One of the quickest and easiest answers is that we believe that our youngest learners require direct contact with their teachers and their peers to engage in appropriate social interactions. The second piece is that we've recognized over the past few months is just the spread and the risk for elementary age students seems to be significantly lower than that of secondary age students. And that data piece is also true for our school district as well. Uh, the other third recognition that we have around social distancing, and Dr. Oblak talked a little bit about this around transportation, is this is a major area of concern. But we do recognize that from the survey results that we've received, about 30% of our students could opt to continue in Cohort C for at least the next few months or so. So class sizes will be a little bit smaller than they normally would be. And we will do the very best that we can to social distance to the maximum extent feasible. And the fourth piece is similar to the first piece, and we just truly believe that our students do best when they are here in school, engaging with our staff, and just having that face-to-face in-person learning. So this is just a quick snapshot of our 14-day trend in our school district right now. So you see the number of active cases on the right there. So we have 10 active cases in the district at this time, no active cases for staff. And during this 14-day rolling period, these are also our positive case counts at our schools. So just a quick snapshot of what the data looks like in our district right now. So we actually pulled this quote from Dr. Levine back from January, and this was actually in the Post-Gazette. And one of the comments that Dr. Levine made at that time in January was just a recognition that with the mitigation efforts, the universal masking, the physical distancing to the greatest extent possible, the hand washing, and all the other safety measures that we're taking, that young children, particularly elementary grade students, should return to in-person instruction. One of the questions, and this was really apparent in the survey, is just how important Cohort C will continue to be for the foreseeable future. We recognize that there are families who do not feel comfortable sending their children into schools yet. So we want to continue to allow those students to operate within Cohort C, recognizing the importance of the relationships that they have with their classmates and their teachers. This will continue just like it's been in place for this Cohort C group since the beginning of the school year. And we are planning to continue this for the remainder of the school year in this model. This has been very helpful for the flexibility that it provides to us for students that are in quarantine, have to isolate, positive cases. And this has just been an opportunity for us to maintain that consistency with their classroom teacher and their peers.
So one of the questions that we receive as we've been talking about moving to 4-day-a-week instruction is, what will the mitigation strategies look like when our children return to school 4 days a week? And many of them will continue to look similar, but some will have to look different just because of the volume of children in the schools. First, students and staff will be required to continue to adhere to the universal face masking order as outlined by the Pennsylvania Department of Health. And additionally, we will continue to have physical distancing of 6 feet in our school cafeterias as children are demasked while they're eating their lunch. One of the points that we'd like to make with that is not every student will be eating in the cafeteria. We have altered some other spaces within the school, such as the school library, the school gymnasium, and some other classroom spaces that will serve as areas that students are able to eat so that we can achieve that 6 feet of social distancing during lunch. And then finally, we will continue to maintain 6 feet of physical distance between individuals, as Dr. Aiken has stated, to the highest extent possible. It's important to note that the district is unable to accommodate that 6 feet of distance in all scenarios within our buildings. You know, particularly some of our classroom spaces are smaller, hallways And then as we move to talk about transportation as well, we will be increasing our capacity limits on our school bus routes, as we will have more students that require transportation. And our students will once again share seats on the bus. Up to 2 students can share a seat on a school bus, and up to 3 primary or elementary aged siblings will be able to share a seat on the school bus as well.
So, and I just mentioned this a little bit ago, is just the continued cleaning measures. Since the beginning of the school year, our custodial staff has worked very hard to maintain a clean and sanitized space for our students and our staff. They will continue doing the same things that they've done since the beginning of the year. We've hired part-time custodians around the district to fill in, especially during the times where students are in the cafeteria. They're helping out in the cafeterias, the hallways, the bathrooms, those types of spaces. Additionally, our custodial staff are using the electrostatic sprayers. They're using these on Wednesdays. They're using them again to deep clean on weekends. So they've been very consistent throughout the course of the school year to maintain the safest and cleanest facility as we can possibly have. One of the most important strategies to mitigate the risk of transmission is really around face coverings. And our staff has been working consistently with our students across every grade level in the district to really help students understand the importance of masking. There are times during the day where students will have mask break. They will have mask breaks when they're 6 feet apart. They will also have the opportunity to unmask while they're eating, obviously. And it's important to note that that's why some of the alterations have been made in the cafeteria space to make sure that students are 6 feet apart when they're going to be eating. As we increase the number of students coming into school, we recognize that this presents us with a challenge. So we're looking at those alternative spaces to eat and just make sure that we still continue to give these mask breaks to students throughout the course of the day when they need that. So in each presentation that we've had in several communications this year, we've just continuously reminded parents of this daily symptom screening. And I'm not going to read each column here in Group A and Group B, but just wanted to reinforce the very important message that if your child has one of these symptoms or 2 or more of the symptoms in Group B, please keep them home for that day. We recognize that this puts a tremendous amount of strain on our families, but we also recognize that we want to keep everyone safe. So it's an imperative that we continue to conduct daily symptom screenings across the district. This is something that as we increase the number of students coming in and where physical distancing, social distancing is not possible 100% of the time, this is going to be critically important for us as a school district. Throughout the course of this year,
I'm sorry, Sean.
That's all right, Dr. Oblak. Did you want to take this one? So throughout the course of this year, our school nurses have been a tremendous resource for our school district. They have been the health professionals that have been on scene, working with our teachers, working with our families, working with our students, working with the administration, and they've been a great resource for us. We asked that if you have a child at home that's tested positive, please communicate this information with the school nurse. This helps with us doing the contact tracing that we need to do. This also helps to keep our information updated. And it's just important to that line of communication. We can't stress this enough. It's so important. Our school nurses have been tremendous. They have been very responsive to our families and just extremely helpful to our staff throughout this process. And they care deeply about our students as well. And so they will continue to be a great resource for us. If you have any questions about anything, please reach out to the school nurse, and I'm sure that they'll get back to you and answer any questions that you may have.
So the district will continue to follow the guidelines for cases in our schools. Particularly, we will be following the matrix during the moderate level of community transmission. This is the second consecutive week that Allegheny County has moved from substantial into moderate. One of the important pieces that we just wanted to remind parents of last week in our weekly communication, we had identified a target number that we would be using. As you can see, the recommendations from the Department of Education have a range. We have identified the middle of that range. So particularly at the elementary school, we would be looking at doing a 3-day closure when we hit 5 positive students or staff members within that 14-day rolling period. We just wanted to give families the opportunity to continue to follow the dashboard and to be able to better anticipate when a closure may be coming. So again, as we move to 4-day-a-week instruction, the potential for positive cases does increase, and it could lead to some sporadic school closures. So we just wanted to reiterate that we will continue to follow these guidelines released by the Department of Health and Education. Coupled with that, we are going to continue to use our COVID-19 dashboard that's on the website. And if schools experience positive COVID-19 cases, we will continue to send the daily summary email to all of our families and staff members that are in that affected building. One of the important pieces to note with the dashboard is the dashboard includes positive cases of students who were on school property during their infectious period. If an individual has been quarantined for a period of time and they were not in school during their infectious period, we will still inform via email, but it will not count towards the 14-day rolling closure for the school as that individual was not in the building when they were infectious.
And the final slide that we'd like to share with you today is just the timeline for transitioning to 4-day in-person instruction. Back on February 19th, we sent parent commitment forms. At that time, we were looking specifically to gain information regarding K3 and then also 4-6. This week, this is our second town hall meeting with our 4 to 6 parents. We've also been holding meetings this week with our staff at the elementary school. The commitment forms are due this Friday, March 5th. And then 4-day instruction for grades K through 3 will begin on March 8th. And then on March 15th, we'll transition to 4-day instruction for students in grades 4 through 6. At this time, we're contemplating and working towards a transition plan for grades 7 through 12. So we look forward to releasing that information as well soon.
So at this point, we will open the meeting up to any questions for anybody joining us this afternoon. If you could, please raise your hand using the reaction tool at the bottom of the screen. And when recognized, if you could unmute yourself and state your name. As a reminder, with all of our previous town hall meetings, if you have an individual question that is personal in nature, it should be directed to your building principal or the appropriate department. So to begin our questions today, we will go to Danielle.
Good afternoon. Thank you for presenting this today. I do have a question. Will there be any implementation of the PSAS this year? That might just be too broad of a question at this point in time, but considering our kids are transitioning to 4 days a week, or that potential to 4 days a week, you just overhear people within the district talking about PSAS. Is there any information regarding that? I do have an 8th grader, and they were told that there's potential for them to have them at the middle school. but not so much at the lower grades. So I was just a little concerned based on what the teachers are going to do to prepare, if they are going to have PSSAs, knowing what's been going on with virtual learning in some classes and the instruction and the methods. How ready will they be if, in fact, you do use the PSSAs this year?
That's a great question, Danielle. And we actually just had another conversation this morning about it. So I'll let Dr. Oblak talk a little bit about some of the discussions that we've been having, both internally and also externally about that.
Thank you, Dr. Aiken. Danielle, so to answer your question, state assessments are a federal requirement from the U.S. Department of Education. Recently, Washington came out and indicated that they would not be waiving state assessments this year as they did last spring for the spring 2020 assessments. However, what the U.S. Department of Education is permitting states to do is to apply for a series of waivers, which the Pennsylvania Department of Education has done. And some of those waivers include delaying when PSSAs and Keystone exams can be given. It does not allow individual states to completely eliminate state assessments this year. So Pennsylvania has submitted their waiver application. And one of the options that they have included in their waiver application is one, that the assessment data would not count for accountability purposes against an individual school district, so it wouldn't negatively hurt school districts. And secondly, they have asked for a extended testing window that would allow schools to actually administer the PSSAs in the fall of 2021. So their timeline that they've used is September. So one, we are waiting to hear if Pennsylvania's application for their waivers have been accepted by the U.S. Department of Education, and two, to receive guidance on what would a spring or what would a fall assessment administration look like. So again, once we receive that information, we will look at it, we'll review it with our local team here and make the decision that's best for Shaler Area School District. There does seem to be a level of autonomy amongst school districts that may be given, that some may choose to issue it in the fall or in the spring and be done with it. Some may be concerned about the summer learning loss and issuing an assessment in the fall. And then others may say, absolutely, we want to delay. Until we receive the guidance, we're just not in a position to make that decision yet. But, just to be clear, as we stand today, the U.S. Department of Education has not waived state assessments for this school year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions from the group today? I have a hand raised from a Galaxy S7.
Yes. Are you planning on any new way to do the picking up, since we'll be talking about a lot more cars involved?
Yeah. So we had a conversation with Mr. Miller and his team this morning pertaining this, and they actually have been working on, I would say, more refining the process, and they actually are going to be releasing information to families in preparation for that. It's something they take very seriously, and they want to make sure that it runs as smoothly as possible, recognizing that we could have up to double the amount of cars that we've had over the last month or so. So that definitely is a concern. We're also working with our local law enforcement too, to get some assistance from them as well, especially during the transition phase. So they're very willing and able to assist us. So this is definitely a concern that we've talked through extensively, and we understand that this could be a challenge. We do also recognize too that more parents seem to be opting for school bus transportation, and that I would imagine will increase as well, just because of the traffic and the number of cars that are coming through.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Aiken, those are all the questions that I see today.
Okay. Well, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for partnering with us. We look forward to this transition. Seeing our students in school more often, more in-person learning is going to be a great next step for our district. And we thank you for just your patience and your willingness to partner with us and work with us through these difficult times. Have a great rest of the day today. And please do not hesitate to reach out to your school principals, school counselors, Dr. Oblak, myself. We'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have that you did not ask today. All right. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.